Yeah, we're coming in. Yeah. Hello. Good morning. We are representatives of various different organizations, and we have some messages that we wanted to provide, give to the senator, specifically from Cuba.
Okay.
We are opposed to our government's current policy toward Cuba. We feel very strongly about it. We come representing various organizations that will be here all weekend long to exercise that our right to explain our opposition. But we're hoping to actually provide the letters that we have, actual letters we've collected.
Please.
But we'd like to meet, we'd like to ask to meet with Senator Menendez.
Sure. So, do you have the letter?
Well, we want to give them to the senator.
Yeah, so we don't do walk-in at the moment, so we don't schedule meetings last minute. However, what I can do is give you the email of the scheduler, so in that way you guys can send an email, and I'm pretty sure this, it always happens like this, the scheduler can set up a meeting for you guys. So that way you guys
Well,
can
we don't need a meeting, we just want to give him the messages.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And we've come, some of us have come all the way from New Jersey.
Correct.
To be with him.
So I live in New Jersey. Bob Menendez is my,
Definitely.
I'm a constituent, and felt it was important enough to take time out. I live in New York, but I work in New York, live in New Jersey, but came down because I wanted to be a part of this, to say what our government is doing against Cuba is wrong.
Right.
And I know that the senator has a perspective on that. I would love to meet with him, talk my own personal experiences of many years of traveling to Cuba. I am the director of an organization, a faith-based social justice organization that has organized numerous delegations to Cuba, but also we support the opportunity for young people to go to Cuba to study medicine under a full scholarship. More than 220 of them have returned to the United States and are practicing in underserved communities. I know that the senator has a perspective. I disagree with his perspective, and I feel that it's important for all of us to be able to talk with him and for him to hear directly from our friends and family that are saying this policy is strangling us. It's not helping us. The senator has made the claims that he wants to speak on behalf of the Cuban. I want to be correct on this, but on behalf of the Cuban people. But the Cuban people are being harmed by a policy that our government has maintained for more than 60 years. The senator may have a different perspective on that. I respect that. But we need to be able to, particularly I felt it was really important for me to take time out of my schedule to come as a constituent to say what this policy is doing day to day is killing the Cuban people. I disagree. The argument may be that it's the Cuban government's policies, but if a blockade, an embargo is being imposed that is preventing people from having access to goods and services, then that's on us. And I can't sleep at night and say that in my name and my government's name that this policy is acceptable. So that's why we took time out. We get that it's not always easy to kind of come and do drop-ins, but we're constituent. We are the people who are concerned about our friends and family in Cuba, and we'd like to be able to at least share the messages that we have received from our Cuban friends and family, talking about what the U.S. policy is really, how it's impacting negatively them and their families.
Do you have any documents or things to, I don't want to be recorded, sorry, any documents to hand Senator or a meeting request or any asks that you're
Is he here?
He's running around because we're in session still, so I don't know if he's in the office. He might be on the floor currently.
Yeah.
But if you guys have any documents, I'm happy to refer it to our staff that deals with Western Hemisphere, or the Western Hem in Cuba specifically as well.
Will he be dropping in? Like, we could wait for him.
I don't know when he will be here. We also have meetings throughout the day with other groups, but I'm happy to give it to him if you'd like. What group were you all with?
Well, we're representing a variety of different organizations, including my organization, Pastors for Peace, Code Pink, which is an organization that's based here. We've got National Network on Cuba, and many others.
Do you think is anyone here Cuban or no one's Cuban?
No, but we've all
No.
been to Cuba multiple times.
Yeah.
Great, okay.
And are
But
connected
in
with
Venezuela,
Cuban
and it's the
society.
same for Venezuela.
Yeah, I'm Cuban, so I'm pretty familiar with the issue. So if you guys have any documents, I'm happy to give it to him. Or
Well,
cards or anything to relay.
yeah, well, we wanna wait for him. So we actually have the messages that the Cuban
Yeah.
people wanted us to give to him, so we want
Yeah,
to.
or I can take the messages and give it to him. We do have meetings, so you would have to wait outside or not here because we have people coming in as well. So whatever works best for you all.
I think we'll stay.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Yeah, we can just sit here and wait. And in the meantime, we'll read the messages that were given to us to give to the senator, and wait for him to get here.
Do you think y'all could write notes down from the messages that we read?
It's okay. I can memorize them, but in a long period of time.
What a great memory.
So
There's a lot of messages. So.
we're here because we wanna give these messages from Cuban entrepreneurs who were hoping that with the Obama administration that policy would change, but obviously it hasn't changed, and they are feeling the economic hardship, and of course they're impacted and we're impacted as well, and so over 1,000 entrepreneurs in Cuba sent these messages, and they asked us to deliver them to the Biden administration as well as to our government here for them to understand how these policies are actually impacting them.
So this is the first message. Economic blockades and sanctions destroy the quality of life of peoples. Only cooperation, solidarity, and mutual support will allow us to overcome the poverty, inequality, wars, and climate change that affect humanity.
I think you ignore all the difficulties we encounter for our development due to the effect of your country's policy towards ours, especially the crazy inclusion of Cuba as a state sponsor of terrorism. Then send a delegation to meet with us, the Cuban private entrepreneurs, and visit our workshops and our points of sale. We appreciate the work so far of Benjamin Ziff, but I believe there are issues of many of them mentioned in this letter that need to be taken up urgently. In short, if you have questions, send someone to ask us by looking for us.
In our particular case, we chose to wait for the recent economic opening of our country and not to emigrate. It turns out that we love our land, and here we want to prosper with our families. But sometimes that strength falls and doubts increase. Only great strength and hope keeps us trying and trying day after day.
A quick review of the commercial exchange between Cuba and the United States during the years of opening by the U.S. government has shown how exports to Cuba can grow because it's a natural market for the Cuban nation. The Cuban importing company Alimport has managed to import $430 million worth of food from the United States during 2022. This with conditions of payment in advance, use of complex banking routes, and the impossibility of using dollars or mentioning the name of Cuba. This is also in a context of deep economic crisis. If you analyze this figure in the adversity of the context, you can perceive the great opportunities that our market represents for U.S. entrepreneurs and companies eager to trade and invest in Cuban private businesses.
We wish for the normalization of relations between the two countries. It is necessary to take the first step to begin the path.
You have the capacity to change the situation and make history. The people of the USA and Cuba do not wish to continue in this senseless economic war. Believe in the capacity for dialogue and exchange. We are neighbors, and we should be more than contenders.
We want Cuba policy to be centered on the will and the desire of the majority of Cuban people to allow us to live with dignity, both materially and politically. May we be allowed to fight for our own battles in peace and without disrespectful interference.
If I could just stop for a quick second. May I ask you? My name is Gail. What's your name?
Diego.
There you go. Excuse me, ma'am, and what's your name?
Sarah.
Sarah. I get that you all hear people all the time. I really do. And I get that you may not even agree with us, but we came a long way. If you can at least just look at us while we present these messages, we'd appreciate that.
Work to do, so,
I understand, but we're also,
Cuban American, right? You're Cuban?
Part of their work is listening
I mean,
to
Right.
constituents.
Like,
It
I'm
is.
just confused
It is.
as to why
It
there are
won't
people
take
that
that
are
long.
dying
We're gonna
in your
leave the
country
messages.
because of U.S. policy, and you don't give a fuck. Like, you really are not. You're laughing at us and saying you can memorize these messages. Like, that's super inappropriate. Like, that's super inappropriate.
Okay, we do have a staffer that's going to come and speak to you all. So if you would like to sit here, that's great. But we also.
who's the staffer? Just tell me who the.
I don't know who it is right now, but there is someone coming to just speak to you all about Cuban policy as well.
But I mean, Shaquille has a point.
Like, it doesn't matter if you don't
invoked
agree
your
with
Cuban
us. You're just
identity,
being rude.
but you're
like,
just kind of like laughing
you're
at
laughing at
us.
us, walking in and out. Like, I understand that. I came from South Carolina to talk about this, and you're sitting here laughing in our faces. You're saying that I'm Cuban. Cool. But we are seeing the effects of this happening to your people.
And we're bringing quotes from Cubans themselves because they can't come here because it's so
So even if you don't
hard.
agree with us, at least like be respectful.
Particularly, you got some like young people. Y'all are young. I'm old. All right. I can just dismiss me from. But we've got young people that are very passionate. They've traveled. They've been. They've seen. They want to be able to exercise their right to talk to elected officials. You are the front face. I get that you have work. We all have work. I left my job to come here because that's how passionately I feel about it. So all I'm asking, I don't know who this person is. You don't seem to have the name of who the person is that will come and speak to us. But in the meanwhile, if you can just, we don't have much more, but at least give us an opportunity to express so that you can express to whomever you need to what it is that we've come to say.
Sure. So yeah, it is understandable, but at the same time as well, please understand. I understand you guys, but at the same time, please, you have to understand that we also have other stuff that we have to take care of. We're listening. I'm sitting over here. I mean, it's not like I'm not gonna become deaf from one day to one moment to another. But at the same time, we also have other stuff that we need to work on as well.
I
You guys
respect
can
that.
continue speaking. That's totally fine.
I think it's the same as if my friend Carla is speaking to me, and she's speaking to me, I'm gonna look at her. Yeah. I'm just saying, I think that there's emotions here because of the way that we're feeling a little dismissed. I'm gonna memorize stuff, but then you left the room. So, you know, we're
I
just.
was getting the staffer as well, so I think you can't
Okay.
expect us to also
Okay.
fear his
So, but
schedule.
who's the staffer? I'm just asking
It's
you.
not
who
a
the-
staffer. This entire issue, it's dealt with by the Committee on Foreign Relations. We don't have any staffers here that work with the committee.
But who's the person that you were saying that you were sending to come speak with us?
So our staff is divided into parts of the world.
Mm-hmm.
The entire Western Hem staff, it's consisting of 5 people. So one of their staffers would be coming from the committee if they can as well. I don't know if they're busy. So I'm coordinating to see if they can come from, they're in a different building right now. They're also holding a hearing at the moment, so just to see if any of them can come speak to you.
So since
all.
we don't know, there's nothing, I mean, you're saying we'll see if they can come. So that's why we've said, well, we've come this far, we feel this, so we're just gonna stay and wait, and we can continue to share these messages, these heartfelt messages from our friends and family in Cuba that are saying,
Does anyone
this
here
is
have
Cuban.
family in Cuba? Or
I have family in
yes,
Cuba.
family, okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Can I just ask, has the senator ever traveled to Cuba?
I
For
don't
dinner?
know. I haven't worked here long enough to know his travel.
Can I ask you a quick, I mean, I just wanna understand.
Yeah.
So when you say, is anybody Cuban, what does that mean, what does that mean if we are or we aren't? Like you were asking if I'm like, yes, I've got
well, I
family
think when
members.
you're advocating for an issue, sometimes you are personally impacted. There's a difference
Mhm.
between being personally impacted by an issue versus advocating from an outside perspective.
Let me just give you a little different way. So you, I don't know how old you are, but you are familiar with apartheid in South Africa. You're
Yeah.
familiar generally, right?
Yeah.
That was a horrible policy. I'm not South African, but I sure as hell was pissed off that people had to walk around with passports. And I knew that that was an unjust policy. So it didn't matter whether I was South African. in my opinion, I think people who have gone and seen and had the experience firsthand in Cuba, we have a right. I can tell you, I have sat with people. I've sat with people who've lost family members because of a lack of access to medicines that we cannot fully say is, that is very much impacted by the blockade or the reasons for that. So we want to be able to express that. We've come from afar. Many of us have just come back from Cuba. Some of us have been doing this for many years. We know that the power around much of these decisions lies with the senators. So that's why we wanted to come and present messages directly from Cubans to the senator.
Great. Have you been to like other offices?
Yes.
We got a warm welcome.
Have you been to?
We did get a warm
Warm
welcome.
welcome. They listened. They took notes. They helped us.
Yeah. So
They didn't dismiss us.
we've been to several, and it's been a different kind of a response. So that's partly why I just said, I don't want my friend to continue to read this one. I'm going to tell you what Gail is feeling. It's me.
Yeah.
I'm feeling a little blown off. I'm feeling that we're being blown off. So that's why I said, let me step forward.
Staffer that deals with
Hey, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
How y'all doing today?
Doing great.
How's everyone doing?
Good. My name is Gail Walker. Who
How
are
you
you?
doing?
Hi.
My name's Brandon Yoder.
Brandon Yoder, can you just tell us? We don't know. We're just speaking.
I serve Senator. So first of all, I understand you all wanted to meet Senator Menendez.
Yes.
Senator Menendez is chairing a hearing in the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. He's also attending committee hearings in the Banking Committee and Finance Committee this morning. So he is not physically present. I serve as his senior advisor for Latin America and the Caribbean in the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and understand you all wanted to have a talk about Cuba. I'm happy-
YODER?
Correct. I have a card for you if you'd like it.
Yes.
I think I have 4 or 5. But I'm happy to chat with you all this morning. Hear anything that you want to share. Anyone else?
Thank you.
Talk about current policy.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to
well-
chat, happy to hear. I have another meeting at 11:30, but you have my full attention.
Well,
Happy
we,
to talk.
we came here because we feel that Senator Menendez's policies towards Cuba don't represent the will of the majority of, his constituents and people who actually voted for him. And it's just his policies of him basically stopping any efforts to normalize relations with Cuba. It's just awful. Like, why is he trying to strangle the Cuban people? Like, we don't agree with any of his policies. Most Democrats don't agree with any of his policies. Anything that any Democrats put out a letter, a policy, he responds like in an aggressive way and tries to intimidate people. And we see that, and that doesn't represent us, and that we don't want those type of policies towards Cuba. And we feel that he's taking his own personal feelings towards whatever, Cuba, the policy, the Cuban government, and lashing out against all the Cuban people who are actually feeling the brunt of his policies. So we want to be here and speak to him and look at him in the eyes and deliver these messages that the Cuban people actually living in Cuba, not in Miami, not in New Jersey, want him to hear, because these policies are actually impacting them. So, and also us, because we can't exchange freely with the Cuban people. And we feel that Senator Menendez has a huge role in blocking our exchanges and these policies. So we want to understand why. Why is Senator Menendez the odd one out that always lashes out against Democrats who are trying to improve relations with our neighboring country?
Sure. Are you from New Jersey, by the way?
No, but there's multiple people here who are from New Jersey.
Where are my Jersey residents?
Well, I'm from New Jersey.
Okay.
I live in New Jersey.
What part, by the way?
I live in Newark.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome.
Right.
Who else was from New Jersey?
Yes, New Jersey adjacent.
Jersey adjacent.
New Yorkers, Jersey.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always want to give a special hello to our New Jersey residents.
Yeah.
What part of New Jersey are you from?
I'm actually from outside Pennsylvania myself. I'm from outside Philadelphia and Pennsylvania myself.
Okay. Okay.
Delaware Valley.
Exactly.
Yeah. But
Not
yeah.
near Reading, a little bit further out.
But as a constituent, I really felt like it was important to come and, to join my friends here in saying, oh, this policy has got to end. The organization I work with, we organize not only delegations for people to go and see for themselves. So they're not just relying on what the news is telling them. They're not just relying on what elected officials are telling them. They're going, as their right, to see and experience Cuba for themselves. And that's what the majority of people in this room have done. And that's why we feel we have to say something. We can't keep doing this the same way. When the claim is that the policies are being geared toward the government of Cuba. And we're saying that these policies are directly having an impact, a harmful impact on the vast majority of people in the country. And if we are a nation that is based on justice and the things that we espouse and we claim, then we've got to change this policy. And we feel that it's our responsibility to talk about what has been our truth. It's not been, I mean, it's terrible. Everything from whether you're a little child, you're an elder, you hear nothing but negative about Cuba. There's a lot of positive there. And the only way to engage and make some kind of, relationship is to communicate. But to isolate and continue to put literally the boot of our governments, on the neck of the Cuban people by, making it difficult for them to get access to regular everyday services, everyday goods as a result of this policy is not something that we can stand idly by without speaking on. So we're all busy, but I will just say, as you're one New Jersey resident here, I took time out of my busy schedule to come down because that's how important I felt like this is.
Great, appreciate that.
So we really want to do more, sir, than just talk, speak words. What is it that we can do to help the senator understand what it is that we're saying? We've got messages from regular everyday Cubans, entrepreneurs, who are saying, if you've got a problem, if you've got questions, come see us. Let's dialogue. The senator is Democrat. We know that President Obama made efforts to at least try to have some kind of exchange with Cubans. President Trump came in, reversed all that. President Biden came, said he was going to reverse it again, but that hasn't happened. So I don't want to just speak words but I really want to figure out how is it that we can really tangibly make some kind of inroads and help the senator to understand, put a human face on these policies. People are suffering. I was just there a few weeks ago and it was just, I literally wept because people are really struggling. That was me, sorry. People, I'm not trying to break the walls there. So these are the things that we're really concerned about. So much more we could talk about: the health, the education. The project that we work with, we provide, we facilitate opportunities for people to go to medical school, to learn, to receive medical training under full scholarship, with the only promise being that they return to the U.S. and serve. And I can tell you there are more than 224 graduates of the Latin American School of Medicine that are practicing in communities across the U.S. And they're beautiful, wonderful young people who've graduated debt-free so they can really serve. That's the model. That's a beautiful model. Can't we look at something like that and say, hey, this is an area where we can work together? That's all we're saying. We're just saying, we've got all these young people that are saying, why is it that our government is continuing, how is it that we feel that continuing the same policy is acceptable when we really are talking about change that's going to benefit not only the people of Cuba, because it's clear that that's going to happen, but there's also many constituents here that would benefit: farmers, healthcare providers, students. There are so many different constituents that could indeed, benefit from a change in relationship. So these are the things that we're, some of the things that we're passionate and concerned about, and want to be able to express to you some of the messages that we've received from some of the entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know if you all have a copy of the exact same thing, or if
We were
various
just-
copies of various documents, but I'm happy to receive any documents that you all want to share. Did anyone else want to comment at all briefly?
I just want to say, as someone who has been to Cuba many times, I think that it's really egregious what's happening there, like beyond the policy issues, the humanitarian issue, and just being able to see the medical and biotech innovation that's happening in Cuba that we could benefit from in the United States. Like, there's lung cancer vaccine, they developed 5 COVID vaccines without even, having access to a lot of the resources and materials that they needed due to the U.S. economic blockade and the state-sponsored terrorism designation. So for me also, it's important to highlight like the cultural exchange that could happen. There's, like Gail mentioned, there's so many educational opportunities that we're missing out on. And we are representing more than 60 organizations, but also 45 million Americans through 90 resolutions that have been passed, even in DC recently. So I think it's just important to, like, at least from an economic standpoint, there's so many benefits to that normalization process, but also like, we're here because we can all benefit from this too. We want to see a better future for us all, and that can't happen if we are still stuck in draconian policies that don't benefit anyone.
Mr. Yoder, I'd like to, if I can just, one other quick, because it's timely. The organization that I'm the director of, I'm the executive director of the Interreligious Foundation for Community Organizations. It's a faith-based social justice organization. We have fought against apartheid. We fought, we stand up for what we believe are issues of justice, and we believe that this is fundamentally an issue of justice. But I want to just say, I don't know how much you're aware, but just recently, the president and his entourage were received by Pope Francis. Sorry, I want to say John. Pope Francis in Rome. We are getting ready to, there's various faith leaders that will be converging in Washington on Friday, tomorrow, to hold a prayer vigil, an interfaith prayer vigil, calling for a change of heart on the part of our U.S. Policymakers, but a change in this policy. So there are so many different places, like I said, education, health, and even in the communities of faith, where there is really an opposition to this policy. So these are important pieces of information we think that the senator ought to be aware of.
Okay. Well, listen, Gail, appreciate you taking the time to stop by today. As I mentioned, the senator is on a couple different hearings right now across a couple different committees, so he's not expected back to the office for some time. And we also have votes on the floor starting in the 1 o'clock hour, so I actually don't know if he'll be back before then, to be honest. Just wanted to say that, for all of our constituents, the doors are always open, and we are always happy to receive any information that you all want to share. I'm happy to take a look at what you just sent. You have my email, you have my contact information there. You're feel free to reach out at any point in time. As his staff, we share on a regular basis the information that we receive, share it with the senator so that he knows that people stopped by. Would also just say, specifically for New Jersey residents, the senator is in Jersey Monday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Monday?
Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Session days down here in DC are generally
But is he, excuse me, I didn't mean to cut you off, but is he available to meet on those? That's a weekend, is that?
Those are the days he's in New Jersey. Senate days start Monday evenings around 5 p.m. and then exactly here in DC. Start Monday around 5 p.m. and then he's here through Thursday afternoon for normal session.
But there's no way to see him in New Jersey.
That's what I'm saying. It is possible to schedule
maybe like on Friday or something
in the Jersey office. As well, so residents don't have to drop down here. We love to see you down here as well, but it's closer to home. It's a lot closer to where Washington D.C. is, and so we just say I'm happy to take a look. For those I give my card to, feel free to share anything we want. We're happy to always take a look and always
that Senator Menendez is standing in the door to improving relations with Cuba. I live in Michigan. His policy hurts us. I watched the people in my city in Detroit die of COVID because of the policies of this country. In Cuba, the same time period, only 146 people died of COVID because they have better policies. We can learn from those policies. 1,500 people in my city died in the first 4 months of COVID. What he's doing doesn't just affect people in New Jersey. It affects every single one of us. The blockade against Cuba hurts the American people. We have more than 90 resolutions passed from all across this country, large cities and small, that say it's time to unblock Cuba. It's time to take Cuba off the list of state sponsors of terrorism. What he's doing is affecting all of us. And we say it is time to change. We cannot let this go. And we are willing to do more to impress that not only upon him, but upon all the senators and upon the House. Take Cuba off the list of state sponsors of terrorism. Quit this. Florida does not rule this country. Does not rule this country.
Madam, thank you for sharing your opinion. I have to run to my next meeting, but it was really great having a chance to speak with you all today. For those that have my email, please feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to stay in touch.
Yeah.
And Gail, appreciate having the chance.
Thank you, I appreciate that. What I'd like to do is, and I understand, I get being busy, literally. I have so much work on my desk at home, but I felt that this was important.
No,
I would like
I
to,
appreciate that.
I would like to wait, even if it's just to give a few minutes with the senator, to put my face and his face and just say this, because that's how strongly I feel that he needs to at least hear, I think, directly from us and from myself about why we feel the way that we feel about this policy.
I can relay that to our scheduler. As I mentioned, he's going to be in a couple of different hearings.
But you said he should be back this afternoon?
I think so. I don't have full visibility into his schedule
Mm-hmm.
at this exact moment. I know that he's in hearings this morning, has votes on the floor in the 1 o'clock hour. I would assume he comes back at some point in time. I do not have insight into his schedule.
Okay, so what would be, from your perspective, what would be the natural follow-up to this? Because as I said, and I really appreciate that we're all busy, I'm going to be really frank, but I don't want it just to be, well, we just sort of let listen to them talk and then nothing comes of this. What can we do to continue to share? We know we've got your information. We can continue to share information, but what can we, tangibly expect as a follow-up to this?
Gail, I would just say that with any of our constituents in particular, anytime we ever receive any written communication, we respond. We try to make our responses as substantive as possible. And that goes with any constituent on any issue under the sun, foreign policy, domestic policy. So those are always opportunities. If you'd like to hear directly from the senator, we can do that. As I mentioned, you have my contact information. I don't know when the senator is going to be here this afternoon. We can always try and schedule something. You obviously know that when senators aren't available, we staff are available for those meetings as well. And so whether that's here in Jersey or here in DC, we're always happy to.
And who is the legislative, who is the staff for Cuba policy? Is there a person or persons?
That's
within
me.
your
Yes.
okay. So that
I serve as senior advisor for Latin America and the Caribbean on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee's Democratic staff.
okay. Okay, so there's no legislative director or anything. You
Anytime there's a Cuba thing, they're going to call me, and so they called me. I was in the middle of a meeting, and I said this sounds important, and I made sure I came over.
okay.
Then
Do
can
you
you
think the
answer our
Cuba policy
question?
is
I do have to run to my next meeting,
We understand.
and I do apologize. I walked out of one so I could come over.
Do you
and
think
stop.
it's a good policy? Do you think it's improving the lives of people in Cuba? The
I'm
blockade?
going to run to my next meeting. I do really apologize for that.
But why
It's
does
just
the
a simple-
senator
I-
support
I
killing the
have
Cuban
to-
people?
I
Can you
have to
answer that
actually go to my
question?
next meeting. Thank you, guys.
So do
Well,
you
we'll
or
be
don't
here
you?
waiting.
Thank you, guys.
We'll see
No.
you.
No, that's definitely
Exactly what I was thinking. Like, what is he doing here? The picture behind you.
George Costanza.
What? Jason
Is he from Jersey?
He must be.
Maybe that's this is famous.
Yeah, I guess these are all.
All right, this is a side thing. Sorry, y'all. I need to.
No, Bruce.
We gotta get into our song.
I guess
Okay.
there's only like 12.
Stand, okay.
Who is it? We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved, just like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved. Abajo el bloqueo. Abajo el bloqueo. No nos moverán. Abajo el bloqueo, no nos moverán como un árbol firme junto al río, no nos moverán. No, no, no nos moverán. No. No nos moverán como un árbol firme, firme junto al río. No nos moverán. Down with the blockade, we shall not be moved. Down with the blockade, we shall not be moved, just like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved. Cuba si bloqueo no nos moverán. Cuba si bloqueo no nos moverán como un árbol firme junto al río. No nos moverán. Cuba si bloqueo no, we shall not be moved. Cuba si bloqueo no, we shall not be moved, just like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved, just like a tree that's planted by the water. We shall not be moved.
Right. Nothing like a little song.
Cuba, qué linda es Cuba, y él la defiende, la quiere más. Qué linda es Cuba, Cuba, qué linda es Cuba, y él la defiende, la quiere más. Y las palmeras, más que palmeras son milicianas, linda es Cuba, Cuba, qué linda es Cuba,
I know, she loves
y él
it.
la defiende,
I do love
la
it.
quiere más. Cuba, qué linda es Cuba, quien la defiende, la quiere más. Social opportunity time.
I'm just doing it.
La venceremos, quien la conoce, la quiere más. Qué linda es Cuba, Cuba, qué linda es Cuba.
That Senator Menendez violated Senate rules and federal law by knowingly and repeatedly accepting impermissible gifts of significant value over 6 years from Dr. Solomon Melgen, an eye doctor who was convicted of Medicare fraud. The committee concluded that Senator Menendez's actions violated Senate rules and related statutes and reflected discredit upon the Senate, for which he was severely admonished and ordered to pay back the gifts he received from Dr. Solomon Melgen.
The senator is now under criminal investigation again as to whether he and his wife improperly took cash and gifts from the owners of a New Jersey halal certification business in exchange for an exclusive contract with Egypt, the foreign aid to which is under the purview of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. In May, investigations expanded to determine Senator Menendez's possible connections to a real estate developer who pleaded guilty to a loan scam. Investigators are examining whether Senator Menendez's wife received gifts such as a car, jewels, and a DC apartment in exchange for political favors. As new subpoenas are being issued, many Democrats have reported being afraid of speaking out of fear of retaliation by Senator Menendez, who is known to be vengeful.
You need to keep your voice down, ma'am. This is an office. No recording. Off.
Our second concern is
Not
that
allowed to
Senator
record
Menendez's hawkish stance on Cuba
I'm allowing you
policy.
to record
The
your staff.
senator leverages his Cuban heritage and influential role as chairman of the Senate committee to thwart any efforts to normalize relations with Cuba. The senator's support for continued trade embargo and travel prohibition contradicts long-standing popular opinion in the U.S. and Cuba that favors lifting these restrictions and undermines our national interest in normalizing relations with our neighboring country. Rather than rejecting Trump's increased sanctions and the illegitimate designation of Cuba as a state sponsor of terrorism, Menendez clings to a 60-year failed policy of regime change that prolongs the agony of a resource-poor island nation of 11 million people.
Cuba's innovations in medicine, including vaccines against COVID-19 and meningitis B, new treatments for lung cancer, hepatitis B, diabetic foot, vitiligo, and psoriasis, largely remain off limits to U.S. medical professionals seeking global collaboration in healthcare. In May of this year, 21 House Democrats wrote to President Biden to lift sanctions on Cuba and Venezuela to curtail increased migration to the U.S. borders. Instead of joining his colleagues, Senator Bob Menendez sent his letter to the representatives, vehemently disagreeing with their demands, while pushing the narrative that U.S. sanctions are not behind the worsened economic conditions in Cuba and Venezuela, despite growing consensus that economic sanctions contribute to unemployment, scarcity, and general misery in these targeted countries.
Senator Menendez's second federal investigation in 5 years and his commitment to undermining cooperation efforts with our neighbor raises concern about his ethical fitness. While he is the subject of an investigation, he should not be leading a committee with significant responsibilities that demand a high level of integrity. We need a chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee who recognizes the imperative of world cooperation and being a good neighbor. Consequently, we ask Senate Majority Leader Schumer and members of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee to urge Senator Menendez to resign as chair so that a more ethical, progressive, and visionary committee member can assume the mantle of leadership.
All right, well, thank you all for coming in today. Please, right out this way. Please, here you go.
We're not holding up any meetings. Like, people are welcome to come in here and listen to what we have to say because everyone needs to know about the cruel impacts of
This
this
is a
blockade.
private office. I've asked you twice now kindly to
Actually,
leave.
we're paying his salary, so we have the right to be here and to be speaking our voices.
Public
I'm
servant.
asking you now twice. Don't ask the third, because the third time I have to call council, please. And we will do that next. I've asked you kindly to leave.
So we just finished reading the letter that we delivered to Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer this morning, telling him to remove Senator Menendez from his leadership of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee because of his corruption and because of his awful, cruel policy towards normalizing relations with Cuba. And we've also been here reading aloud a letter that was signed and delivered by thousands of Cuban and U.S. entrepreneurs and small business workers, asking Biden and asking the Democratic Party and the entire U.S. government to take Cuba off the state sponsors of terrorism list, to lift the sanctions, and to normalize relations between our countries. Because this blockade is genocidal. It has been condemned by 96% of countries on earth in the United Nations. And the majority of U.S. people know that this blockade is not an effective or just policy. So we are here representing the U.S. people, the Cuban people, representing the people of the world who do not stand for Menendez's cruel Cuba policy. We want our voices represented in our government, and we are telling Biden and telling Menendez, lift the blockade.
We're here representing the working class, which clearly Senator Menendez has no idea about, has no experience with, because what is he being investigated for?
This is still an office.
Fraud. I mean, criminal crimes like corruption, money. So we're here standing with the working class people of the world, of Cuba, who are suffering because of sanctions, because of the state sponsors of terrorism list that Menendez apparently thinks Cuba belongs on.
More than welcome.
So we're not leaving until we talk to Senator Menendez about his warfare policies.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
As an organizer in the Philippine National Democratic Movement, I think it's extremely ironic that the chair of the Foreign Relations Committee seeks to stomp as hard as he possibly can on the Cuban people while supporting actual terrorists around the world, supporting the leaders of many of our nations who are just openly killing and criminalizing our people. It's ironic that Cuba is on the state-sponsored list of terrorism, just as many organizers in my country as well are seen as state sponsors of terror, who are then kidnapped, who are murdered in U.S.-backed operations, who get to work together in trainings held between the U.S. and the armed forces of the Philippines, who are adding 4 new bases, adding to a total of 9 military bases in my homeland, and that's totally fine. There's no support for the Philippine Human Rights Act that would seek to defund that government because they have an interest in supporting those types of dictatorial, capitalist countries. Well, in the meanwhile, Cuba has the audacity to self-determine, and that's why we're here today. That's why we're all trying to organize the best that we can to offset this really draconian foreign policy.
And Menendez claims he speaks on behalf of the Cuban people and the U.S. people, but the reality is he speaks for a very small, extreme, right-wing majority that is financially invested in maintaining this blockade and crushing Cuba. Has Menendez ever even been to Cuba himself? I don't think so. We have all recently returned from Cuba, where we saw the day-to-day impacts on the entire Cuban population of these sanctions. 80% of Cuban people have lived their entire lives under the U.S. blockade.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Please have a nice day. This is S3 to leave.
Can you, I have a question. I'm just very curious, Senator Menendez's justification for keeping
Brandon Yoder already met with you guys.
Cuba.
I've now
Yeah,
asked
you
you.
did answer
Guys, I don't want to do this. I've now asked you 3 times. Don't make me do a 4th.
But
We're not making you do anything. We're asking him to lift the blockade of Cuba.
And we're just asking to see him in person. He should have at least a second of time in his day.
Okay, well, Brandon Yoder met with you, and we have now listened to you and heard you, and I have sat here much longer than I thought.
We want to listen to him too. We want to understand his.
Okay, well then,
Why he feels
then she has my contact information, and we can set up a meeting. But this is not the way to go. So I'm where we have to get moving here. I'm sorry.
Oh, I just asked a simple question.
I know, and I said I'm sorry, ma'am. She has my contact information. We're happy to set up a proper meeting, but unfortunately, this meeting is now over.
I think, you know what the issue is that you said that, that
So are
Mr.
you
Yoder
guys not
claimed-
gonna leave? Is this the bottom line?
I'm not leaving.
Okay.
I asked a question, but you're not answering it.
Okay. Then,
You don't want to answer my question, but I'm confused. Like, you want me to leave? Can you answer my question?
and there'll be no more recording in the office, so please turn them off.
We're just
He
not,
said I can record myself.
Senate security.
I mean,
Sarah, do you know the senator's justification for keeping Cuba on the state sponsors of terrorism list?
I don't work on the issue.
Oh, but when we talked earlier, you said that you know very well about the issue because you're Cuban. So, do you know the justification for? Are you in support of that?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. So now you don't know, but earlier you knew very well about the issue.
part of it is that, and yes, we met with
I'm
Mr. Yoder,
asking
but,
simple questions. I don't get it.
and nobody's answering any of the questions.
Yeah, I
And
don't know
think
what
that
kind of
that's
meeting it is.
It's not really a meeting.
Any questions haven't been answered.
Yeah, why are we talking about like the history of U.S. terrorism against Cuba? Like 3,000 Cubans have been killed because of direct U.S. attacks on Cuba or U.S. funded attacks bombings of airplanes, bombing of hotels, and not only that, but this economic policy is terrorism. The U.S. is the biggest state sponsor of terrorism in the world. The U.S. has illegally occupied Cuban territory at Guantanamo Bay for 125 years, where they operate an illegal torture camp. This is what terrorism is. Cuba is not a state sponsor of terrorism. Cuba sends doctors, not bombs. Cuba is a country that promotes peace and solidarity with all the peoples of the world, and that is the message we are here to share today. Menendez is a war hawk, he is corrupt, he has been investigated many times, but somehow he is still clinging on to power, and we are here to expose the truth about what his policy is doing to the very Cuban people that he claims to support. It is killing them.
Yeah, absolutely. Socialism and Cuba has access. After they were like, we need science, medicine, education. And even at the beginning, they you know how I'm sure you know, as a woman working in like the gender.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, there are more women doctors than scientists. Oh, I'm sorry, I just knocked her. Menendez is a front runner of
They're just gonna, like, what would the reason be for us to?
It would be unlawful entry. I got arrested here before. It's unlawful entry.
Excuse me, folks, if you could just stand to one side of the hallway or the other, that'd be appreciated.
abortion was outlawed. They saw a negative impact that was having on my. I didn't realize that she was gone into the office. But that was, you know, and she wanted that was in the office. And when I tell you, like, the gender equality.
And people chant.
Yes, let's do that.
Abajo el
bloqueo, no nos moverán.
Abajo
el bloqueo, no nos moverán como un árbol firme junto al río, no nos moverán.
Folks, no singing. There's a performance demonstration. You can get arrested for that as well. So please stop.
We have to do it inside? Is that what he said?
No singing.
Huh?
No singing.
No form of demonstration. You can
Oh,
hear
it's a form
anything.
of-
Listen to that as well.
Of course, singing is a form of demonstration in this country. You can't just be singing because we're happy.
No, because we're not happy and free. So.
Is there a law
Singing in the rain, just singing in the rain, a glorious feeling. How happy
That's their job. They're professional at that shit.
I hear you, I see you, thank you, constituents.
What he was really trying to do is see if there was any New Jersey constituents. Period.
We're holding the banner, and we can't sing either. And Cuba's authoritarian, right, guys? Can't sing, can't dance, and can't hold a piece of paper.
You want to get arrested?
We got the truck here anyway. We're probably gonna do the rest of them.
Amazing, we're actually having a vigil outside of the Methodist building.
Oh, these police is up here, I'm getting confused and I'm scared.
Hey, Ryan, you know it's good for you.
But I know some of them.
Okay, we should do that.
Thank you.
I was in love with them.
So what do you know about forestry?
I only met one farmer that was
Growing trees.
I met about 40 of them. Like, it was so eye-opening, you know. If I had to, but a lot of I was probably where it got started to encourage people to
Give us room, guys. Keep this area clear for me.
Can somebody take this bag? You need your ID. Please keep your license on. Oh, wait. I need my driver's license.
Who has Gail's bag? She needs her license.
I'm sorry.
Do you want to keep your bag? Yeah. Okay, so just have her take, where's her license? No, where's it? We don't need the whole, you're gonna keep the bag, right? Yes, we just need her license.
You want to keep your bag?
No.
All right, she's gonna keep her own bag.
Is that your bag now?
Yeah, I was just with the blockade with it. This has been going on for 60 years. Yeah, and yeah, this is the front, like proponent.
Am I taking you rest?
Sorry, can I take it back? Can we get those signs?
That's right. Keep your research.
Damage and property.
Alright, so Senator Menendez's office.
Why they arresting y'all? What's up?
Senator Menendez's office called us to arrest us because they didn't want to have a conversation with us about how Menendez's policy is killing the Cuban people. We need to end the policy.
I just want my drive. I don't want to.
And U.S. terrorism against Cuba.
Oh, we can walk. Come on, come on, come on. You want me to take your
No, I
walk?
didn't know. My wrists are getting like kind of twisted, so I want to know what you're
Be
doing.
delicate with her. All right, come on, guys. She's good.
I got this. Thank you.
What happened now?
Apparently, because we wanted to have a conversation with Senator Menendez, and we were told he was coming back to the office. We've been told that we've been told that we're being arrested. And we wanted to talk to him about the policy of unjustly on the state sponsored of terrorism. And so we're here to protest that. Take it on that one, take it on that one. Take it on that one. So that's why we're here. And what's happening is that we're being arrested for sitting in Robert Menendez's office. We've asked to have a meeting with him. We were told by one of his staffers that he would return. We were told that we could wait. And we've now been told by the chief of staff that we're not allowed to leave, and they are now arresting us. So we're standing in defense of our Cuban family because we believe it's unjust. This policy.
Make a path.
Before they arrest us too? They ain't like arresting us.
Peace. Peace.
I'll keep it this.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yo, check out how much money they're putting into this. Look at that. They got money for that now. Cubans are dying because Menendez is
Cuban family. We can't allow this blockade to continue without expressing our abhorrent opposition to our government's embargo, blockade, strangulation of the Cuban people.
Stay over with the staring sound.
We shall not be moved, just like a tree that's standing by the water. We shall not be moved. No al bloqueo. No al bloqueo. No nos moverán. No al bloqueo. No nos moverán.
Cuba sí. Cuba sí. Bloqueo no.
Bloqueo no! Bloqueo no! No nos moverán. No! No! No nos moverán. No! No! No nos moverán como un árbol firme junto al río. No nos moverán. Cuba sí, bloqueo no. Cuba sí, bloqueo no. No nos moverán. Cuba sí, bloqueo no. No nos moverán como un árbol firme, firme junto al río. No nos moverán.